of solve the same problem and benefit two different folks. The problem is really around clinical research and clinical evidence. And it helps our brand partners because we've been able to really rethink the business model of clinical research so that it is approachable for a brand or somebody who doesn't have access to traditional funding, grant funding, or they're not, a pharma company that can throw $20 million bucks at a study. And on the other hand is to help consumers and create a little more agency for them in determining where they're going to allocate their time, resources, and energy. And so, unlike traditional research, where only the sponsor really gets the study results, on Aforia, we, in addition to providing trial outcomes for our brand partners, are also providing individual clinical assessments for those people who decide to participate in one of our studies. And so we can actually show them the clinical evidence that, the product or service has a direct impact for them in some way. And we think that overall leads to a better consumer experience and a more informed population, and it's better for retention for the brands, et cetera. And so we've been building the platform for over 3 years. We've been in market for about 6 months, and we're approaching sort of 75 clinical studies that we're either about to launch or are currently supporting in market. And we're just sort of in the process of coming out of stealth mode and really providing the service more broadly.
That's awesome.
So, a little longer winded, but cool.
Appreciate you.
And can you tell me just a little bit just about Gaia Healers and your background and sort of?
Yeah, just a quick question for you before I get into that. How do you guys actually do your clinical research? Like, is it through like do you draw blood, or do you do like what kind of research do you guys do on products or services?
So we have a whole resource library that allows you to incorporate any sort of variety of measurements or diagnostic tools and techniques. We provide full support for things like most blood panels. One of the things that we try to design around our partner, the resources we provide to our partners, and also to candidly, because it's a better experience for the consumers, the people participating, is that we really try to strive for at-home solutions. So we don't send folks to LabCorp or anything like that. So all of our lab and diagnostic partners, for the most part, there's a handful of exceptions, but for the most part, are through an at-home service model. And so for blood tests, we ship kits to people's homes. They use the kit to take the sample and then send it back out to the lab for analysis. And that's true with some other types of lab partners that we test that we support that require labs that are not blood related, but generally speaking, yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
And so, Nima, just to add on to that, one of the reasons why I had approached you and Vita at the Biohacker conference is because that is one avenue that we can test and how some of the brand partners are testing for the efficacy of their products. But one thing that was interesting about the Bioel to me is that we use, when it comes to specifically anxiety and depression, there are self-reported measures that we utilize that is generally, what's the word, Pat? Like, it's standard in the research world that these evaluations are what are used across the board. And so as an add-on to that, we have been looking for other tools that can be used in an at-home setting to evaluate the how something is benefiting the end user when it comes to something like anxiety and depression. So really interested to hear more. It was one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on a call with Pat, because I think doing a little bit more exploration about what Bioel is, what the like, I hate to use the word core competency. I'm going back into like SaaS mode from where Pat and I were at before, but really getting an understanding of who you service, because I know one thing that was also interesting to me that I shared with Pat, you had mentioned that you service a network of about 1,600 Eastern medicine providers. So, really from the ability to support you in any way that we can. That's how we were approaching today. So
I love it.
with that, I'll actually give
Thank you.
a little bit of context.
Thank you for that introduction and for the context. So yeah, this is beautiful. I see there's a lot of different ways that we can work together. So with the BioWell, give you a little bit of a backstory about myself. This was my background was I'm a software engineer. So I had a marketing agency, a very successful company, and I started to have heart palpitations. So I went to my regular doctor. They hooked me up to an EKG machine, and they told me that I have abnormal EKG, and they wanted me to go to a cardiologist, right away to do more testings on me. So after doing a bunch of testings on me, they told me I have to put a pacemaker, otherwise, like they don't know how much longer like my heart would be able to just function on its own. So I was a semi-professional soccer player at the time. I was a semi-professional wakeboarder at the time, and having a pacemaker was pretty much like a death sentence for me. So I wanted to find out if there's a way naturally that I could bring healing to myself. So that led me into a journey of, stopping my company and just traveling the world and learning really about, all different ways that we can bring healing to people or to ourselves. And I ended up in Russia in one of the bioenergy conferences, and I met Dr. Konstantin Korotkov, the inventor of BioWell. And I got the BioWell. I really got the understanding of it, and I, got a device, came to the States with me, and started just working with myself, scanning myself to understand that, if I can somehow figure out why I'm having palpitations. So I would wake up in the morning, I'll do a scan, and then I would go around my day. And as soon as I had palpitations, I'll come and I scan myself again. And after a while of doing this, I started to see a pattern that it's my stomach area, my descending colon, that would drop in energy, and that would lead into some complications, which a side effect would be a palpitation. So then that led me to start investigating my diet to, okay, like what is it that I'm consuming that's influencing my stomach that way? And with BioWell, there's a way that you can do stress scans. You can hold onto a product in your hand and do a scan of your fingers, and it shows you if something's like increasing your stress levels before you actually consume it. So I came to understanding that coffee and Coke and like spicy food, things like that, was not agreeing with my system. And there were some food sensitivities and things like that that at the time I didn't really know about. But just by taking these things and eliminating them out of my diet, within 6 months, I got rid of my palpitations, and it's 13 years later now. So that's how I got into the bio world. They invited me to become their global educator, and I pretty much brought the bio world to the States and made a movement out of it, and we created Gaia Healers. So then everybody that I sold the Bible to, and I trained them and educated them on how to use the technology, they became a part of this network. Now we have it's actually 1,900 practitioners that are within that network now that we have created a full on I've been a software engineer. I've created a software now that will analyze the viable information, and then it will use an AI, it will make recommendations, and we can create, the practitioners can create customer accounts, and it will create a custom website for their customers so they can have access to it, and that way the practitioner can be in charge and kind of like increase that client retention by making recommendations of maybe meditations on a daily basis, or different types of things that would be good for them. So what we do now as a company, I started this about 8 years ago, and we started to get a lot of interest from different companies to understand if we can do a research on their products to see how they can influence the bioenergetic system, or biofield. Kind of like how I was testing myself with different types of food to see, what's going to really influence me in a negative way or a positive. So with BioWell, what we can do is we can measure the effect of anything, supplements, a product, before consuming it, as I mentioned, and that's how we can research different products' energetic effects on people. And we created a software now that will compile, let's say we do like 30 to 100 scans of a before and after of a supplement that somebody holds on to. Then the software will compile it and it will tell us exactly every single system in their body, from their liver, kidneys, to their chakras, to their everything within their energetic system and physical system. That now we can show the percentage of improvements for those studies. And then we created a recommendation engine. So now, based on the studies that we do, we'll take those products and we'll recommend them to people. So that software is something that we could definitely use in the model that you guys are working with to actually create like, I don't know if you already have a platform or something like that, but that's kind of like how we are doing the research. And recently, um, I was seeing a lot of shootouts on my when I was doing the biowell scans in my gut area again. So I started investigating. I started to go to doctors, wanted to really see, okay, what's going on. And I ended up meeting a functional medicine doctor that is a high-level scientist and researcher in one of these high-level conferences that I was attending. And they work with the Italian technology that we had at the event also. That was the Biotechna. So now the Biotechna technology is another, that's like a whole array of medical devices that we can use for clinical research. And they have an at-home device so that we can just ship the at-home device to people to actually measure their information remotely. So those are the two things that I see that would definitely work well. And I don't know to the level of quantum physics that you're comfortable with, but with a BioWell, we have trained practitioners that they can actually scan people remotely without them actually being present in their office.
Happy to talk through that. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about how that would go from a institutional review board process to get approved, something like a remote diagnostic tool. Because one of the challenges, like some things that are rooted in non sort of pharmaceutical based healthcare delivery, is that the system and regulatory environment that we have to work through to get studies launched still have to adhere to some of the standards of that industry, even though it is not that type of medicine, right? So I would need to think through and talk with some folks on the institutional review board side as far as that type of remote diagnostic capability. Probably navigable. I'm just not sure off the top of my head that would be easily accepted by an institutional review board.
And we have a lot of physical locations now. We have hundreds of centers across the U.S., so they can physically go and get
That's what I was going to ask. It sounds like you have an ongoing relationship with practitioners who invest in your products and services. So we have a growing network of in-person. That's one of the exceptions to sort of our partners, is that for this type of thing, I do think it actually, if it is a network that you have access to, is a very powerful way to sort of enable research to happen faster and more quickly, So I'd certainly be interested in discussing that. I also find a lot of times the individual practitioners themselves or subsets of them might also have their own research questions, and this allows them to kind of collaborate and do it collectively.
Definitely.
And, folks like that, anyone who is trying to help people get better, I think in some way, shape, or form are interested in doing their own research, right? Because they're very passionate about the topic at hand. And so we find that there is sort of a nice organic response to people once they know that they can generate studies. So I definitely would love to talk about making that more broadly available, how you could offer that more strategically, I think, to your network of practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
I also would love to discuss, I think, some of the at-home devices that you've mentioned that individuals can invest in for their own use, as opposed to maybe the more professional level. Because I think that would be broadly appealing from a research point of view for participants to join studies around that, if they're not close to a center. Mm-hmm. So those aside, I think the more hard consumer products are definitely things we'd be interested in leveraging on the platform and maybe opening up and making it available to other researchers to discover and incorporate into studies. Certainly would be very interested to do that. Would love to talk about the network and how we can leverage that collectively, both maybe from a top-down perspective, if it's something that, there may be a handful of research questions that you have as sort of the head of the organization that you would want to prioritize, and maybe we can, you like us in partnership, can collectively find providers in your network who would like to participate in a research trial. Just out of curiosity, is there are your practitioners all leveraging the same sort of POS or CRM type platform to facilitate running their practices, or are they all over the place? They can kind of set up whatever they want.
So actually, right now we have just introduced our own CRM. We have a go high level partnership, so we have created our own CRM for the practitioners. So we're introducing it to them. Some of them are coming on board, but we haven't really done a heavy push on it yet. But that's the goal. The goal is to get everybody onto the CRM and have an automated system for it.
And how do they, before this being an option, how were they operating? Sort of managing their
they have their own
business. Was it through things like like a MindBody account, or like
some practitioners
Square
have
account or something to that effect?
Square accounts,
that's okay. So we have some existing integrations with some of those systems, which we would be able to then connect your network into the same pool for the purposes of data transfer, which would allow us to then use the network as people want to participate as a site in a study. We can connect them so everything happens pretty programmatically, and there's not really much for the site to do other than their normal daily operations of providing treatments.
So give me an example of how a research that we want to run would work out.
Yeah, so it all really starts with a hypothesis, right? So just do you have one or two sort of questions that you think would be helpful to answer from a research standpoint? Like if you had data or evidence that would help for sales and marketing or credibility.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get an understanding of how we can collaborate together because, we have a lot of energetic type of products that we research, but then we don't really focus on clinical research. Even though we have some other partners that do clinical research. But that's what I'm trying to see how we could work together. Like if we get a recent product that they want us to research, and the product is supposed to influence the energy of the environment, and they have a personal device that it's a handheld device that would influence the energy of the person. So something like that, we launch it into our platform, and we have because we have a lot of scientists, high-level researchers in our platform. So then we have to pay them to actually be a part of the research. So then we get whatever the budget is for the research, and then we share that with the people that are a part of the research in the community. So
I see.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand.
So from an operational standpoint, we work primarily under a transaction model. So Aforia gets compensated through the sale of the products or services that consumers are making, and in as part of the research effort. So unlike how a lot of traditional research operates, where you try to find 20 or 30 people somewhere to participate all in the study, maybe you're compensating them, maybe you're outsourcing the recruitment to some firm in Asia or Eastern Europe from a cost basis to make it cheap. And so you need this time and materials budget up front in order to do all of that. We actually integrate with the systems. That's why I was asking about MindBody and the type of systems that your clients are utilizing. We actually interject into the sales and marketing flow of our partners, and we recruit folks into the trial before they actively begin receiving the treatment that is going to be studied within the research effort. And so we would work with net new customers of your network of practitioners whenever they are signing somebody up and the person is interested in receiving a treatment that's part of an active study, as long as they're not excluded for any number of factors, then that person would voluntarily be able to join that study, and we would collect all of the data for that person. We do that, many, many times over, and those outcomes stack into clinical trial findings. So our platform standardizes the research process so that it doesn't all have to happen at the same time. It can happen asynchronously over a couple of months as these people are all in different places receiving treatment. We then align the time points for their participation in the study, and we're able to generate trial findings from that analysis. In exchange for doing all of that work, which also includes the institutional review board process, which makes it a valid clinical research study in the United States. You can publish on a clinicaltrials.gov if you choose to do that. We take care of that. We also manage all of the regulatory, the participant safety and oversight of the trial. We do all of that under our transaction fee. That typically equates to about 20% of the products or services that are sold during the period of the study. So if we're looking at a 30 to 60-day study, we would retain 20% of whatever the cost of the products and services during that 60-day window would entail. That's under the service model, right? So that's if people are going to a practice, they're receiving treatment and following the protocol, we would get 20% effectively of whatever that total is. If it, and that is also true, by the way, if you're at home, the products that you mentioned before, if somebody's purchasing the product as part of the study, we would retain 20% of the product sale. So there's no upfront cost to actually use our platform. We scale much nicer with your business model because we are only getting paid when the products and services are sold. We take a slightly higher margin or a higher transaction fee on those if we are the ones who are generating new business for you. So we invest our own sales and marketing resources to socialize the trial, to share it through our own network and try to create a little bit of energy around recruitment. Whenever we provide a net new participant that didn't come through your own sales and marketing efforts, we retain 30% of the transaction. Mm-hmm. And so it's very different than what you would have done previously. And I also want to be transparent because it sounds like you're doing various levels of research. None of what I'm talking about is market research. Everything that we do is clinical trial research. So it is eligible for publication, for submission to academic journals or to trade publications. This isn't just, for your internal usage. It should be done strategically because you're looking to generate clinical level evidence around the efficacy, the benefits, etc.
Mm-hmm. I think
Does that all make sense?
That all makes sense. Yes, that's perfect.
Oh, we lost Devin.
Yeah. Okay. So
the only thing you're really agreeing to is the transaction fee. Mm-hmm. And that covers any of our minimal risk stuff, which based on what we've talked about, I think everything we've discussed for the most part is minimal risk. And so you would probably likely operate predominantly under that transaction model with anything you'd want to do.
Okay. So then let's say we're doing a research on the same product that I mentioned, and we want to do a clinical research through that. And, mm-hmm. So then would we sell, would one of the criterias for the participants would be to actually buy one of the technologies to be a part of it? Or how does that work?
So for your in-service type network of clients that you have, right? I think the 1900 or so you mentioned, mm-hmm. Any one of those organizations that wants to participate would be agreeing to paying Aforia basically 20% of whatever they're charging for their services for us facilitating the research study. In exchange for that, they would be credited with being involved in the research effort, and each individual participant who goes through one of our studies gets their own independent assessment that has gone through the same scientific analysis that the trial findings are. So we're providing clinical level data back to each participant as well. So to the practitioner, we're now a third party that's validating the value of the service to their customer while they're helping to generate the larger clinical trial result.
Gotcha. So
if it's e-commerce and it's just say you want to sell your products, like as part of some of the products you sell, you want to generate evidence on those at-home products, then we take 20% of the product sale, and if there's any other costs associated with it, we would retain 20% of that. But that would be if you're selling sort of access to some of the products directly from your own site.
okay, what's the size of your network right now?
For our partner network, like from for like diagnostic partners, lab partners, etc. I'm not sure what you mean by our network.
Yeah, as far as like the partners that you would be able to share, let's say, our technology with, that you're doing research for other companies, let's say.
So we currently have around 50 customers who are in market with research studies.
Okay.
We're a multi-sided marketplace, so we also have some academics, content creators, subject matter experts, influencers who come to our platform to discover products and services that they want to incorporate in research studies. So it's not always the brand who's doing the design. Oftentimes it is another party that's interested in studying the intervention or the treatment, or in this case, the product or service.
Okay, and do you guys have a physical location for people to actually come to also, or is it all only done through the practitioners' customers?
No, so in the case where you would want to do something yourself on some of the products you sell, all of our studies are supported through remote, what's known as remote participant monitoring. So all of it can be done remotely. They don't need to go anywhere for any of those, the studies that you would run on sort of the products that you're selling through the site.
Okay, but I mean, what if like the service that a practitioner is charging is like $100? Then you guys just will take $20 per participant from that study?
I mean, if they're receiving one treatment over the course of a month and it's $100 and it's an IRB approved study, that's what we would get paid for it.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand your model. Yeah, that sounds very
Yeah.
interesting.
But if it's 3 treatments a week over the course of a 30-day and each one's $100, we would retain 20% of each treatment.
Mhm. And how long was the session of the trial?
Like, how long does it need to be?
Yeah, is it set per study, or is it different for different products or services?
It's dependent on the intervention that's being studied. Some like for instance, some supplements you need to ramp up your dosage on it in order to actually yield any benefit. So those studies tend to be longer because there's a buildup to begin seeing any benefit. Others, if you know that it's, for instance, like there's some sleep supplements that are point of use products where the first time you take it, it should help you stay asleep. And so those studies can be designed a little bit differently. They're a little shorter sometimes. On average, our studies are about 30 to 60 days. We can support studies indefinitely, but we wouldn't recommend really going less than a month.
Okay. So we have, I'm just trying to understand all different scenarios. We have a research center that is open to public, and we on Sundays we don't charge a fee. We're open to people to come in just for research. So then, like in those cases that we're not really charging people, then how would we have you guys help us with the research so you're compensated?
Yeah, if there's no money changing hands, then we would basically come up with a set cost that would compensate us based on the study itself, and it would still be proportional to the participant volume.
Okay. So let's say, for
And
example,
I would also need to know a little more about the center and what is being done there to make sure that we would be able to actually support that properly through from an approval process from a regulatory standpoint.
what are those approval processes?
So, I mean, I just need to know, like, when you say you have a research center, what does that exactly mean? Is it surveying existing customers? Is it people who are just interested can walk in the door, and
Yeah,
what are they getting in exchange for coming in? And,
yeah,
are they compensated?
Yeah, these are we call them healing homes. So these are they're houses that we open to. We're designing them like in a very like holistic spiritual setting for people to come and be able to do like qigong, yoga, and that way this is more like a research house that we can collect information and be open to people to come in. We give them free services. In return, they participate in the research.
Wow, that's amazing. Honestly, how many of those centers do you have located across the U.S.?
Just one.
Or is it just one? Just the one. Okay. Where's it located?
Orlando, Florida.
Okay. There may be an opportunity. As I mentioned, part of what we're trying to do is generate more evidence, and we want to serve a broader community, right? A lot of stuff that's out there now tends to be skewed towards high income individuals. And so a lot of times it's interventions that are just not accessible to a broad swath of the populace. If you were running some studies at that location, if there was no added cost to us beyond facilitating the actual research, there would probably be a set fee to get the review approved through an institutional review board. I think we would be open to maybe getting creative around actually supporting some studies that had no cost. I think we'd be open to that. Probably not all of them could be no cost, but I think we could find a mix where, there's a mixture of some that we are getting compensated and some that we're not. Because we want to build evidence. Some of the things you're mentioning, are more accessible to a broader swath of people, right? They just don't know that it's really an option because the research behind doing it is very minimal, or using it is very minimal for certain health outcomes, right? For their own goals. So I think depending on the research questions that are being asked, yeah, I think we'd be open to maybe supporting a mix of some free and some that are obviously we're being compensated for. In either setting, it would include a cost to get it approved through an institutional review board, in which we do have our own institutional review board. So if it was if it again was fit the right criteria, would be a nominal cost. It'd be a few $100s probably to get it approved. And then, we would support it up to probably a certain amount of participants.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, we have a lot of paid research as well that we can mix with that. But we're a very spiritual company, so we're there. We want to serve, and people that can't afford it. So that's why we set up these places, and we are actually in conversation with our community right now to be able to expand that. So we're setting the model in Orlando.
Amazing.
And we want everybody to set that up in these healing homes around the U.S. so we can help the population in a bigger way and have more data so we can, research quicker and really help the humanity in a bigger way.
Very cool. I mean, I think, this is where I think our relationship, the business terms of our relationship can sort of live behind the scenes. I think if you have some studies going that are live for some of your e-commerce type products that you're selling, at the same time you're trying to run research, some free studies at a local community center, I think as long as there's a good mix from our point of view, we'd be happy to facilitate and kind of blend things together and have a bit of a gray area where we can support some for no cost. Because it'd be cool to help a community generate more research where otherwise there just is none.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I see a lot of different ways that we can work together. Yeah. This is awesome.
Totally. Yeah. Well, why don't we do this just as a next step? One question, sorry, I have for you. Your own website, is your infrastructure built on in Shopify or WooCommerce or something like that? Or how do you actually facilitate your? Okay. So why don't we do this? Because we have a Shopify app that we utilize to sync sort of the necessary things. I'll have Devin follow up with you. He'll send you our master partner agreement that we have for all of our partners on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll also have him send you the info to sign up, to just create an account on Aforia, and we'll get your account set up so that you can sync your products to Aforia for the purposes of designing a research protocol. And then if everything seems like we can do this, by the way, without the partner agreement, if you're comfortable doing that, we'll sync the products. We can design some studies together, give you a sense for what our capacity is. And then if it's something that you want to move forward with, then we can talk about IRB submission, getting a research study approved, and then ultimately launching it open to participants.
I love it. That's great. Yeah, we have a lot of technologies that similar to these types of crystals, or we have different types of their plates that they influence the energy of whatever that you place on it. So those are the things that we could
Amazing.
definitely run some research with, and that's our own product. So there's a lot of room that we can work together to bring those to market.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the blended model too, sort of.
And I get so
research
many,
studies that are a
I
combination
have
of the
so
products.
many products that are sitting here that are people just sending me like supplements. This is like a multi-million-dollar supplement called stem regen. They're huge in stem cells. Like I have so much sitting here that we could definitely, and I've been trying to get the community involved to do their research, but yeah, you guys are like there, ready to do it. So yeah, I love it. And yeah, I don't mind
Cool.
spending.
Yeah, like let's and be as creative as you want. I'd like to, push the boundaries on how we can get creative to get more people into research. So it sounds like you're somebody who likes to try and really see what's possible, which is great for us because that's exactly where we're at right now. We want to really see how we can change the way clinical research is created.
I love it. Yeah, that's great. And I would love to be able to have the energetic part of the research that you guys do, so we can have like a holistic way of doing research if you guys are up for that. So using the bio and using our metrics, we can do the energetic part of it, and then you could have that as an offering that we can maybe like, to your partners that you have, you can help them bring to our way so we can do that research. And, we're all about win-win sharing, and just we love research. We love to show people through science what's possible, what's good for them, so we can kind of filter out all these fake players in the field.
Absolutely. And I think that's a natural evolution if we're successful at putting more research out there, because when you're a fake player, you're not going to be able to really generate the evidence. And so it's going to be harder for you to kind of exist, which is, to me, is sort of a better world for folks when they're trying to, do the right thing and be healthy. So, cool, man. Well, it was great talking with you, Kev.
Just quick question: Do you have any
Do
you have any medical doctors on your board where you guys do research?
Our review board?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
We have the primary board. There's 5 different members of our primary board and a couple of alternates. One of our primary member, and IRB boards are designed to have separate, different points of view, different roles. So you're not really. Oftentimes there is more than one MD, but oftentimes there isn't because they're trying to account for different roles. Mm-hmm. So one of our active full-time board members is the Stanford trained MD. She's a longevity physician. Has her own medical practice in New York City.
Perfect. And just so you know, we have
one of the other.
We have our own internal IRB as well. That we have very high level scientists, like inventor of the BioWell. We have people that are they're medical doctor surgeons that are in the FDA board. So we can, the research that we do is backed by all that as well.
Amazing. Did you, is that like an advisory board that you have?
It's like an internal, review board that we've created for Gaia Healers.
Cool. Nice. I mean, that's great. A lot of organizations wouldn't go to that length, so good for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, people that we research for, they require that, so we have to have all that so we can handle those types of research.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I'm sure folks from that team would jump at the chance to sort of be involved. So happy to obviously discuss or talk or speak with them at any point in time, or if you want to get them involved, you know, we can have obviously multiple authors of a research study. So if they want to get involved, would be happy and excited to support anything they're interested in studying too.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, looking forward to just starting. I want to start on one product with you guys, so we can start the research on it together, and then I will introduce it to the entire network.
Yeah, that's great. Sorry, I'm in New Orleans currently, and a huge storm just ran through.
Wow.
So my internet was going out. I apologize. I was just going to interject at the end. What are next steps? Am I following up with Nima with the partner agreement and the Shopify install?
Yeah, I think let's hold off on the Shopify install until we get them set up on Aforia.
Okay.
So if you can send that over, Nima can review it. We'll get you an Aforia account set up, make sure the organization within the account is set up properly so that we sync the products accurately. And then once you're synced on Shopify, we can use our AI protocol design tool to actually use whatever that product is that you're interested in designing the initial study for. We can use it in the design process.
Beautiful. Sounds great.
Awesome.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, why don't we'll do all that, and then we'll look for maybe an hour call next week, Nemo, where we'll do a platform walkthrough and then use that also as like the initial design call.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.
Cool.
See you soon.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Be in touch.
Take care.
Take care.